Hello, welcome to Walk, Don't Run to the Doctor with Miles Hassell, MD. This is an evidence-based podcast for people who want to use lifestyle choices to avoid preventable illness, as well as to treat illness. Listeners will learn the choices that work for better health outcomes for themselves, the ones that they love, and the patients they care for. We want to see patients liberated from the burden of chronic disease whenever possible. Welcome back to Walk, Don't Run to the Doctor. I'm Miles Hassell, MD, and today we're going to be talking about how to take control of our health in a meaningful way. How to wherever we are in our health journey, how to make the right decisions and make them stick. We sometimes call this getting your brain right. We sometimes call it, you remember that your health is your job. It involves having the right mindset to be the victor in your own environment, whatever your environment you're in right now. Maybe you're somebody going through cancer chemotherapy. Maybe you're somebody with type 2 diabetes. Maybe you're somebody who's actually in pretty good health and wants to keep it that way. Either way, you need to take charge and overcome the barriers that will keep you from having better health in the future. And sort of if you kind of think about whether we're designed to have disease or designed to overcome it, whether our biological systems are designed to make you healthier if we treat them right. And for the most part, that is the case. Think about what steps you could take to be free of illness in 10 years, to minimize the medications you're having to take in 10 years or 5 years or 1 year. And so we're going to explore part of what the mindset is that will help you sustain a life free from health debt. And we talk about this because we want to see lives transformed, especially your life. Healthier families, healthier communities, because if you're healthier, those around you will probably be healthier. We'd like to see a world without lifestyle preventable diseases. There's plenty of things that we can't do anything about. There's a whole lot that we can. And we'd like to see doctors make their first prescription to their patients to be a lifestyle prescription towards better food, better waistlines, better activity levels, and other things that will allow them to be free of preventable disease. And at the end, you're going to be seeing ways to contact us, and we'd love to hear from you in order to improve what we're doing and improve how we can help you be a better you. So for some people, they only need to make small changes, and others have to make a greater health overhaul. And wherever you are along the spectrum, we'd like to provide insight into real-life strategies that we all need to employ, me as much as anybody else, that work for real patients and real listeners. And change is difficult, but change is typically necessary and typically worthwhile when it comes to healthcare. In our medical practice, we every day deal with patients who are desperate to fix serious problems. They might have had amputations or vision loss or kidney failure due to a lifestyle preventable disease such as type 2 diabetes. They might be made miserable by autoimmune disease or eczema or psoriasis or struggling with cancer therapy or concerned about risk of cancer recurrence. They might have a strong family history and want to do something so that their family history isn't their history. And so these patients often struggle with how to make real change in their life and struggle with being able to make even simple changes that they are convinced are beneficial in their best interests, and yet they have a hard time making them. And so we're going to be talking about lessons that we've learned from real people in the greatmed.org community and those people in our internal medicine practice about what approach works for them. And remember, for all of us, the clock is ticking. None of us are getting any younger. We're losing muscle mass and bone density. Our immune systems are getting more challenged. We have to eat smarter to keep the weight from being around our middle. We might have to lift heavier weights than we did last week or last month to stay strong. And in our book, which is Good Food, Great Medicine, and in the practice where we see people every day living into their 90s, still taking the stairs, skiing, driving, swimming. I have a 90-year-old friend who did his first skydive at 90 years old. And these are people who also have an influence on those around them, who share their wisdom with their loved ones and make the whole world a healthier and nicer place. And when you're thinking about this, clear your mind of past health disappointments. Maybe you signed up for a special membership to an exclusive lifestyle solution and didn't like the outcomes. Maybe you made unwise investments in clever ads about pills or powders or potions or equipment, and it didn't work for you. Be willing to clear out the clutter of your past beliefs about food or health or exercise and the things money can buy, and instead concentrate on what is in your power to do right now. When you let go of prior beliefs about your health and capabilities and set aside what hasn't worked for you in the past and concentrate on what you can work for in the future, then you can develop a thoughtful, positive identity about all this. And this new may I mention disciplined identity, because none of this occurs without self-discipline, will be healthier, feel better, and be better positioned to help others. We are wonderfully and fearfully made, the Bible tells us, and have been given incredibly resilient bodies, incredibly resilient immune systems. And we read in Philippians 4 about fixing your eyes on the good, the true, the beautiful. What might be possible if you can light up all those positive changes that you're capable of making? Really dwell on those things and replace negative patterns of thinking that don't help with the pure and the lovely and the good and the practical. Let's run through a personal health goal inventory. What do you want to see improved about your health? Do you want to see better results from treatment for whatever illness you have right now? Do you want to reduce the risk of developing disease in the future? Do you want improvements in well-being, such as less aches and pains and better energy and better sleep? Do you want to age better, to not feel old? Feeling old is typically not necessary. Do you want to maintain medical independence and reduce the burden of medical costs, medical tests, trips to a doctor? That might be half a day out of your life, maybe a whole day out of your life. Do you want to make changes in order to help a loved one? These are all pretty reasonable goals, and maybe you should employ all of them as your motivations for change. And are you willing to make change? It takes work in order to see those improvements. And step in front of the mirror and ask that person that you see whether they're willing and able to be humble enough to make change, because the role of humility is really interesting in this whole area of healthcare, because it requires humility to say, I'm willing to substitute somebody else's ideas for my own, somebody else's priorities for my own, if my own haven't been working. It might require selflessness, because the changes you make may be in order to allow you to help somebody else, somebody who depends on you. Maybe you're blessed with great health despite eating Twinkies, but you don't want to be eating Twinkies because that's a bad example for somebody else. And so think about your role with your loved ones. It might be children, it might be parents, it might be friends, it might be a spouse, and say, what changes do I need to make to help that other person? Maybe you're feeling sorry for yourself. Life can be tough, but feeling sorry for yourself only makes it worse. It stinks. So if you have loved ones who are worse off than you are and could use your help, then feeling sorry for yourself doesn't help them, and it's just being selfish. You could be looking at greater health disasters than you have now if you don't make change. We see this frequently in patients who have sort of slow chronic diseases, and type 2 diabetes is one example, where their health is slowly decaying. They can see it happen. They can see what they need to do in terms of diet and exercise and weight loss to reverse the process, but they don't do it. And so sometimes what would appear to be in a person's self-interest isn't what they actually do. Ask yourself, if I don't make change, what might happen to me? And sometimes we get the impression that some people don't really feel convicted to be well, and they're kind of comfortable with being enveloped in a persona that has disease. That's sort of their identity. Don't let that happen to you. So what are we going to do? Today we're going to talk about food, but it could be activity. It could be weight loss. It could be the role of sleep or sauna or hot bath or sunlight or nutritional supplements that might help you. But the idea is, first of all, to take control of those things that you do have control over, and food is a really good example. Picture your kitchen cupboards. Are there crinkly and brightly colored packages of shelf-stable food that taste good without doing anything about them? You can just put them in your mouth and they taste fabulous. There might be bread products, bagels, buns, rolls, crackers that you didn't bake yourself, sweets, ice cream. any number of things in your house that are designed to trap your taste buds, but in the process might be quite damaging to your health. These processed foods, and that includes all those fast foods that you get from windows and drive-through places. They might be bars that come in fancy little packages and have really healthy pictures on the front of them. They're pretty consistently connected to poor health outcomes, and we'll talk about that in a moment and to a minimal degree, but we've talked about it more in our past podcasts. And these highly processed foods are connected to more physical pain, more early death, more heart disease, diabetes, stroke, disability, cancer, all things that will make your life miserable. Throw those lousy foods out. Our most successful patients throw out their stores of these bad foods. And some people don't like me saying bad foods, but really that's really what they are. And remember, if you're eating a lot of them, you're asking for cancer, diabetes, heart disease, stroke when you put trash inside your body. It does more harm than good. And when it's in your house, you're probably going to eat it. And it'll tempt you constantly. So get it out of there. You might say, these processed foods taste so good. Of course they do. Some of the smartest chemists and psychologists in the world are figuring out how to fool you into choosing a manufactured project instead of real food that you make yourself. So beat them at their own game. Make delicious foods yourself. It'll be cheaper and healthier. Obviously, we're biased, but our book, Good Food, Great Medicine, the fourth edition, is one of the great resources for delicious, simple foods you cook yourself. There are many other great resources, of course, as well. Other people say, but these processed foods are so convenient. That's true as well, because it does take time to cook. You're going to have to give up something else. But if you find good and simple recipes that taste good, you'll find the time in the kitchen rewarding. Get friends and family together. People who cook together are better friends, and they're healthier friends. And they're also have more money in their wallet. And when you cook, make sure you have enough food for leftovers for quick meals in the future, so you can have your own fast food. Other people say, those processed foods are so cheap. It really isn't cheaper to make your own food, Hassell. You know what? You're just wrong about that. Processed foods are so cheap. Well, that's cheap when they don't have much food in them and when they're not very good for your health. And as my mother used to say, good food is cheaper than good doctors. And homemade food may be your single best financial investment. I see so many people who are worried about their long-term retirement, but they're not worried about their long-term health in the same way. And having financial assets in retirement is no substitute to having good health in retirement. Don't get tricked into believing that these highly processed foods are okay. We have a large body of literature that shows that highly processed foods in a dose-related manner are associated with more disease, especially cancers, and all-cause mortality. And in our society, at least in the North American society, they constitute about 50 or 60% of the foods commonly eaten on a daily basis. So it's not a minor problem. So get good food in your house. When we talk about dwelling on the good and the true and the beautiful, start with your kitchen. Call a fit friend and ask them to go around the store with you and see what they buy. If you don't have any fit friends, grab a shopping cart, go to the supermarket, push a cart slowly, maybe start at the produce section on a busy shopping day and see what fit people's behaviors are. Look for the fit people around there, the people with bright eyes and a spring in their step, and see what are they buying. How are they examining the fruit and vegetables before they put them in the basket? Maybe they're buying something you've never tried before. Go up and ask them about it. Most people who are foodies love to talk about food. What is the pace of the people that you're seeing, right? Are the people walking briskly like they're on a mission? How's their posture? Do they look healthy? And those are the people you want to emulate. And so think about how to identify as a good food person. Identify as somebody who's a fit, healthy person who puts lots of vegetables in their cart. Now, obviously, there's more good food than just vegetables. There's also beans and grains and dairy and animal proteins of various kinds. But were you just using fruits and vegetables as a sort of model of how to think? Think of yourself as being on a mission to fill your kitchen with attractive, fresh food that you're going to prepare yourself. Look into increasing the variety of things that you can imagine eating. Don't worry about whether it's organic or not. Look at the price and quality of the fruit, the firmness of the vegetables, the smell of it. What's it like when you press on it? Get to really identify with a food and whether it's going to be good food for you. When you're thinking about variety, remember the wider the variety of foods, the wider the variety of nutrients you're getting. And so pick up something that you might want to try. Grab a bag of nuts that you have to shell yourself, with some raw almonds, and combined with a piece of fresh fruit, that's your new snack food. Have a meal in mind. Maybe find a recipe in our book, Good Food, Great Medicine. You'll notice I'm throwing in that title quite often, hoping to catch your attention. Find some other recipe source, but whatever you do, find a couple of recipes that you want to cook and get the ingredients for it. Start with a basic soup. Pick up some chicken thighs or breasts in the meat section. Throw them in a pot with some salt and pepper, and you have a soup for this week's lunches. Maybe start with a meal that sounds possible, and while you're at it, grab some eggs for tomorrow's breakfast and maybe some vegetables. Maybe saute some spinach with those eggs. And now you're planning ahead, which is a critical step. Our most successful patients and listeners probably use the buddy system. Even if they're just cooking for one, or if they don't have the whole household that they live with on board, they've recruited outside help. We'll talk about some of those helpers. Basically, the people that are going to help you are going to be people who are unpaid, who just are friends helping friends. The word spreads, and those people tend to begin to help others. We're thinking of one person called May. May lost 50 pounds after she realized that her attempts at pleasing others with bad food were making her sick. She found herself in the ER after trying pills and restrictive eating and exhaustive exercise, and she said, the world's gotten hold of me. I need to do something better. She applied her faith and recruited historical precedent and common sense and started cooking her own food. She focused on meat and vegetables and fruit, trained herself to stop overeating. We'll talk a little bit more about that later on. Her palate and appetite started to change. That's an important aspect of this. As you make changes, you will change. And for the last 30 years, she's kept those 50 pounds off. She's 73 years old. She teaches fitness classes at the local gym. She helps her friends and her relatives and community members and loved ones, people in her church. And she helps them examine why they might have tried healthy habits, but abandoned them. She might ask them mean questions like, why did you stop exercising? Do you still brush your teeth? Do you still eat? Do you still get oil changes and put gas in your car? Why would you take better care of your car than you would your body? I have a patient who takes better care of her animals, her horses, than she does of herself. It's an interesting conversation to have. An interesting conversation that we actually haven't been able to get to the bottom of in her case. But those are the kind of conversations to have with yourself. May takes people to visit others in long-term care homes. And that's a good opportunity to say, have they given up on life? And do you want to add years to your life and life to your years? Because we're less concerned about how long we live than how well we live. For as long as God gives us to have here, let's be as productive and feel as well as we can. Find somebody in your circle who appears quite vigorous for their age. Maybe they eat so many vegetables that they look kind of nutty. That's your kind of person to be following. Find some of their behaviors that you can copy. Get that person on your team and tell them, don't let me slide. Help them make you accountable. We hear a lot of people say, I have no self-control. And a patient recently said, I'm like an unsupervised kid at the county fair. Don't let that be your identity. Change your identity. Raise the bar. Expect more of yourself. Think of yourself as saying, I'm going to flex my no muscles, my muscles that say no to bad decisions. I'm in a self-control boot camp. Start with impulse control. Maybe you're at work and there's donuts out there. Maybe you reached for them automatically in the past. Well, you can say to yourself, I'm going to say no for the next 5 or 10 seconds. In those 5 or 10 seconds, you might grab a quarter of a donut instead of a whole donut. Maybe you'll wait a couple of minutes and go find an apple. And then after you have that apple, maybe you'll be able to say no to the donut, or maybe you'll still have a quarter. But either way, you'll take some control of the situation. And don't give in to excuses. Excuses are destructive. They're destructive on all kinds of levels. But as you think about excuses for why you can't take better care of yourself, make a list of all those excuses and then find intelligent reasons to overcome each of them. If you can't think of a reason, go find a fit friend who can. Many of our patients say they can't really eat simple foods because taste is so important to them. So, what do you want more out of life? What do you want less of? Is fast food someone else's idea of good food for you? Or can you become your own master chef and learn how to make really delicious foods at lower cost than anybody can make for you? Become that great cook. Take food to a neighbor. Take food to somebody in the hospital. Take food to somebody who just had a baby. And have your friends work with you. And so you can say, wow, have you tried such and such a recipe? Have you tried this person's pesto salmon? And learn to have food as part of your identity, part of the centrality of your life. And in trying to help make people make real change in this area, we use food logs a lot. Just getting people to write down everything they eat is a huge step forward. We have something that we call the 6 fruit challenge, and we'll talk about that in just a second. Pester people for ideas, pester people for what worked for them, and then apply those things to yourself. Diving into the family history often helps you choose a better health destiny. It might be because of people who had good ideas, or it might be because of people who had bad ideas. Either way, you can learn from them. Taking care of a loved one with a preventable disability day in and day out is a great motivator to stay healthy. And you might just find great recipes. My sister's roasted chicken thighs takes 20 minutes to get ready to put them in the oven, and they're fabulous. Or my wife's family had the salmon recipe that was sort of a lemon, butter, onion melange that you poured over salmon as you're grilling it. Fabulous. And going back to the 6 fruit challenge for weight loss. So let's pretend you're somebody who could lose a few pounds. So pretend that you every evening have 6 apples ready for the next day. Doesn't have to be 6 apples. It can be 4 apples and 2 pears, or 3 piles of celery and an orange and a couple of bananas. There's all kinds of ways you can do this. But you have 6 substantial servings of fruit and vegetables, raw vegetables, ready for the next day. And before you eat anything else that day, you eat at least one of those servings. So before you have breakfast, you might have an apple. Before you have that morning snack, you might have a few stalks of celery. Before you have lunch, maybe another apple, a banana, an orange, something. Those things take up space in your stomach, provide excellent nutrition, and dramatically reduce your risk of overeating. You're going to have new habits formed. You're going to change your palate. You're not going to feel deprived. And you're going to probably see a pound or 2 of weight loss per week. Try it and tell us what your experience is. And don't get tricked into believing that healthcare improvement requires a lot of money. It really doesn't. It doesn't require special memberships. It requires making changes and having intelligent people that you know who are healthy help share with you ideas on how to make those changes. Find people like that in your community. And don't give up on yourself. The lifestyle habits with the best evidence for improvement. It might be table tennis or ping pong. It might be push-ups. It might be skipping rope. It might be buying a bag of oat groats, which are 63 cents a pound right now at our local supermarket. And fabulous food. You can eat a lot of meals with a pound of oat groats. Maybe you can run a couple of hens in your yard for eggs. Maybe you'll find somebody who has chickens who will trade those eggs for mowing your lawn, and you'll have a new friend. Maybe you find somebody across the road who will let you use some of their yard to raise some vegetables. Maybe there's a hill nearby that you can hike up while you're wearing a heavy vest or backpack. One of my friends who was climbing Denali trained by just going up the stairs in the hospital with a couple of gallons of water in his backpack. And that's what got him up Denali. So whole food and exercise really doesn't need to cost a lot. And what are the health benefits you're looking for? You're looking for better mood, better energy, better waistline, better blood pressure, lower risk of things like diabetes and heart disease and stroke and cancer, being a good example to a loved one who needs help. So get to work, plan and execute. What are you going to have for breakfast tomorrow, for lunch, for your evening meal, for snacks? What food are you going to buy? What gear are you going to pack? Maybe you need to sweat 3 times tomorrow. Do you have that skip rope and you could skip rope 3 times for 1 minute each time? Sure you can. You can do this. And in our book, Good Food, Great Medicine, we have a whole section on food planning that might help you. What vegetables, fruits, beans, and grains, what proteins, what probiotic foods. And look for ideas that have minimal dietary restrictions. Traditional whole foods are generally good food. And if you didn't make the food, watch out because maybe it's not really food. What food are you going to avoid? Sweets and sweet drinks, except on special occasions, are best shoved aside. Most of us need to minimize things made with flour, but especially things made with white flour, or what's sometimes referred to as wheat flour, which is the same thing. If you need to lose weight, get rid of those things. You probably need to get rid of most kitchen oils except for extra virgin olive oil. Maybe coconut oil is okay. Keep reassessing. Am I doing the things I should? And am I getting the results I expect? If not, what do you need to change? Because remember, it keeps coming back to change. It keeps coming back to self-discipline. It keeps coming back to the self-confidence and having good decisions. Appreciate the power you have over your health and use it wisely. We'd love it if you reached out to us and tell us about your challenges, your successes, your failures, and what you've learned. Maybe we can help you. Walk us through your stumbling blocks and your victories, and we can share them on future podcasts. And obviously, we'd like you to go to our website, greatmed.org, where we are developing a library of evidence-based tools to help people overcome preventable disease, to help people successfully treat disease that's plaguing them right now, and to minimize their dependence on unnecessary medications, unnecessary surgeries, and to minimize their reliance on the medical profession so they can be more independent. Thank you very much. This is once again is Miles Hassell, and walk, don't run to the doctor.